that when the Messiah comes, that he would suffer. But Jesus pointed out to him, Christ said, ought not the Christ to have suffered these things and to enter into his kingdom and to his glory? And beginning at Moses and the prophets, he expounded to them all the scriptures, the things concerning himself. He's like, from Moses going all the way back, when we go all through the scriptures, Jesus started talking to him and said, this was about me. And then this story here was about me. And then you can see how this is talking about this. That's me. And then over here where it talks about this, that was about me, is what Jesus is saying. That all the Old Testament, the prophets, the scriptures, everything was about Jesus Christ. Sometimes we miss it. We might see it in some stories. And my goal today is kind of do an overview that hopefully walk out the door and go, wow, he is everywhere in the Old Testament. Everywhere you look, every verse you look under, and you start going, you're just like, wow, this whole thing is about Jesus. And they miss it. God had a plan from the very beginning. So in John chapter 5:39, Jesus this time, he was talking to some of the Pharisees. And as he's talking to them, there's a whole conflict going on. Jesus had raised a man, he picked up his bed and walked and all this stuff. At the end of the whole discussion, Jesus says this to the Pharisees. He goes, you search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life. And these are they which testify of who? Of me, of him, right? And Jesus just saying that. And now you can go through all the writings of, where Paul, God used Paul to write all this stuff. And over, Paul is constantly referring back to the Old Testament. And it's so much. But I didn't want to go there because I think you got the point. That there's so much in the New Testament that's speaking back to, and I went to Jesus himself, speaking back to all the Old Testament scriptures. They're written about him, And so, here we go. So, going back to the garden, I would love to just go through and read Genesis and read chapter 3. I know most of you guys know the story. Chapter 2 ends like this. The woman is created, and the very last line of chapter 2 says that they were both naked and they were not ashamed. Okay, then you get into chapter 3, and everything says, just remember, they were not ashamed. There was no shame when God created man and woman. There was no sin in the world. It was perfect. It was without sin. The creation was perfect. Everything was great. And you think that God, in his ultimate power and creativity and everything, he made mankind. He made all the animals. He made all the trees. He made everything. And there's nothing that, doesn't bow to him or anything, right? Everything is spectacular. And God creates us and mankind in his own image. And he loves us. And so then you get to chapter 3, and then the serpent comes in, and he goes up, and we know the story where he tempts Eve, and he says, has God really said that thou shalt not eat of that tree of knowledge of good and evil? And Satan questions God and says, doesn't? God just knows that when you eat of that, then you'll know like good and evil. You'll be